an embarrassment, and like we indicated, we're never going to allow them to debate the state of the nation because they have no moral right to debate.
They're totally clueless, visionless, directionless, and purposeless, and obviously leaderless and rudderless. They have no idea what it means to govern this country.
Right.
Whether the president has chosen to be insensitive to ignore us, we just want him to know that he too can be ignored and ignored by the Ghanaian people.
Tonight, battle lines drawn in Parliament with threats of retaliation, with the minority walkout on President Akufo-Addo during State of Nation address, leaving the House more divided than ever before. We have details as President Akufo-Addo claims success in fight against illegal mining.
The Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining has been working hard and has had some successes. Some excavators were also seized, and a number of them have gone missing. No one involved will be shielded, no matter what their positions or political colors are.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success and passion also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the nation builder, and Vodafone. The future is exciting ready. Now, President Akufo-Addo took the stage today to lay out the state of the nation. He had hoped to do it before a full House of Parliament. Well, he only managed to get a one-sided House packed with MPs from his own political party. The NDC MPs, led by their leader, Haruna Idrisu, welcomed him at first, but just when he was about to address the House, this happened. And yes, even before the president could utter a word, the minority MPs had walked out and left their colleagues from the MPP side fuming. Listen to MP for Ablekuma West, Esla Wusu-Ekufo.
But as the president indicated, it's a sign of things to come. Nature abhors a vacuum. They would also stage a walkout in the 2020 December polls, and we will occupy the entire state on the House in the country. Now, if indeed the president has said something offensive, which they were reacting to, it would have been understood. But staging a walkout which is uncalled for, totally without reason, it looks as if they've taken leave of their senses, excuse me to say, particularly when their leadership also indulges in this completely unnecessary and senseless excess. They have no business being legislators if that is their attitude to the governance of this country. That's why I'm saying they're totally clueless, visionless, directionless, and purposeless, and obviously leaderless and rudderless. They have no idea what it means to govern this country.
Right.
My colleague Joseph Bukugapo was in the house for us today. Joseph, so they left the house. Did they go at all? Did they leave entirely the precinct of Parliament?
So they went to their various offices, some of them to their various offices, to actually watch the president deliver the State of the Nation address on television. A number of them actually left the premises. You know, the minority were scheduled to hold a media briefing later that day as well, so some of them hung around for that.
Oh, and what were their reasons? They held a press conference after.
A number of them. So the signs were clear right from the start because they came to the chamber this morning wearing black, signifying mourning. And the reasons they cite for how come they had to walk out is that they think the president is acting in a way that shows that he's more of a tyrant. They say he's closed down radio stations that are not supporting the agenda of the NPP. They say that his decision to implement or cause the EC, they claim, to introduce a new voters register has been resisted by Ghanaians, but he's still doing that. They reference the reports of the Ayawaso West Wagon Commission and say the recommendations have not been implemented, including the request that the SWAT team of the national security be disbanded. They say that the president has overseen the destruction of property belonging to NDC folks at the trade fair area, and for them the nation's democratic gains are actually being eroded, which is how come they need to take him on.
So there's a lot of reasons they aligned there. My colleague Daniel Dadzi caught up with the minority leader who addressed the press conference together with his other colleagues and put these questions to him. Listen to his explanation why they had to take the decision to walk out on the president today and the state of the nation.
If you are comfortable with vigilante groups going into the Ghana Police Service, God bless you. If you are comfortable with the continuous closure of radio, FM station and television station, and you are dear to democracy, God bless.
With the vigilante groups that you say have infiltrated the security services, the Peace Council is currently taking part in talks between the NDC and the MPP to root out these groups. The NDC has refused to sign the document.
Yeah, because of the insincerity associated with some of these dialogue processes. You openly see MPP vigilantes being absorbed. Today, you didn't see them as you were entering. They offended us off to walk out.
It's because of them that you walked out?
You saw the SWAT group. You saw them. They were deployed. We can't accept them.
So is it because of the presence of the SWAT group that you walked out?
It is part of our reason. We elevated it and we considered it, but when we saw them, then we say our democracy is in danger. Subtle interference. I would not even be surprised that one of these days the Electoral Commission will say they are changing the date for the register. I would not be surprised. I've been an IT person. I've been an IT minister to disfigure hardware, software from data center. And
you are not allowing them to be independent. That's what your opponents are saying.
What do you understand by their independence? To listen to the ruling government guarantees their independence. That's interesting. So when they listen to the ruling government, that's independence. That's interesting because the ruling government was in opposition, was advocating for this register. How come that this credible register which gave birth to Nanado has all of a sudden become discredited? Should we question his legitimacy? Facial recognition in terms of data and IT, when you look at census, is facial recognition cannot be superior to fingerprint. When you take the minutiae that you work with in terms of a 3D high-level census, so the issue must come properly.
So, a list of reasons given by the minority leader, but there was also this additional reason he gave. This one he gave during the press conference why they really took the decision to walk out.
Parliament is not just to debate State of the Nation address. Go to Article 93. It provides elaborate. You can go through 179, 182, 106, 103. It tells you what we should do as members of Parliament. We have a duty. We have just exercised one of the opportunities available to us. We are representatives of the people, and even in these matters, it's not wrong for MPs to consult their constituents on what to do.
Joseph, there was another reason they gave, though. This last week, when they first hinted that this was going to happen.
They held a minority caucus meeting. Samson Ahi, who is the MP for Boedi, told us subsequently that their share of the District Assembly Common Fund, the MP share of the District Assembly Common Fund, had not been released to them since the third quarter of last year. And if it wasn't released by last week Friday, they were going to boycott the president's address. But funny enough, today when I put that to the minority leader, Hannah Idris himself, he said that was a rumor and that it's not part of how come they didn't participate in today's process, except that he refused to comment on whether the District Assembly Common Fund, the MP share, has actually been released to them yet.
But then he also gave a second reason, another reason, because there have been litany of reasons, right? Which is that they simply wanted to ignore the president.
Probably Whether the president has chosen to be insensitive to ignore us, we just want him to know that he too can be ignored and ignored by the Ghanaian people.
But Joseph, the minority leader, actually walked the president into the chamber together with his colleague from the majority side.
So, per the practice, when the president comes, the speaker opens the session and then he steps out subsequently with the majority and minority leaders to go bring in the president before he gives his address. So this morning, after the speaker opened the session, that happened. Both of them actually stepped out. They brought in the president, and just when the speaker was about introducing the president to deliver his address, then the minority leader and his comrades walked out of the premises, singing the final stanza in the national anthem.
Now, there are threats now from the majority side that there's going to be consequences on the floor when this matter comes up for debate.
So what happens is, after the president delivers the address, the week after, and we're expecting this probably to begin next week Tuesday, both sides of the House will debate the issue, and this could last for about 2 weeks. Then the House would say they've accepted the President's State of the Nation address. But Matthew Nyindam, who is Deputy Majority Whip, is hinting that they may pull brakes on the minority participating in that particular process sometime next week.
They've done themselves so much damage, and they haven't done their constituents any good because they have no reason, absolutely no reason, to walk out from the President, because where is their moral? Sometimes don't let us disgrace our leadership. If the whole minority leader joins the majority leader to walk in the president into the chamber only for them to walk out for no reason, I think that it is an embarrassment, and like we indicated, we're never going to allow them to debate the state of the nation because they have no moral right to debate. They have not done this country any good. You will not allow them to debate the state of the nation address? We didn't allow them because you cannot walk out from the president, you wouldn't listen to the president, and you want to debate the state of the nation. What moral rights do you have? It is an indictment, it is a disgrace, and I must let them know that, look, they have lost it all.
And that is of course, the majority whip there, Mr. Nyindam, laying out the marker on this particular issue. There's a lot that the president said, though, that we're going to the substance of the State of the Nation address. I will be going into shortly for you, also on Newsnight, in detail with analysis. But I want to quickly bring in Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah, I'm grateful that you could join us here on Top Story.
Good evening, Evans.
Also joining me is Inusa Fuseni. Also joining me is obviously the ranking on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee in Parliament. Mr. Fuseni, I'm grateful that you could also join me.
Thank you so very much.
Mr. Fuseni, you've lost your right to debate the State of the Nation address when this comes up next week. We're just hearing that from Mr. Nyindam. You agree? You have lost the right?
No, I don't think that he's quoted any standing order that prevents us from debating the president's statement.
But you walked out. You didn't listen. Why do you want to debate it?
You don't have to listen to the president to debate his speech, also.
But the principle doesn't suggest that. You didn't want to have anything to do with the president. You thought it was needed, but yet you want to be part of the debate.
There's no principle like that in Parliament, that when you walk out on the president, you can't debate what he has said. There's no such principle.
But why do you want to debate something you didn't have interest in the first place?
Well, the MPP debated the President John Dramani Mahama's first State of the Nation address when they walked out on him.
2013 you're talking about?
Yes.
They didn't walk out, Mr. Enusa Fuseni. They boycotted it.
Yes, so we boycotted it.
No, you didn't boycott. You walked out. They're two different things.
Yeah, we boycott. That's a boycott.
Today wasn't a boycott. It was a walkout.
All right. Well, you can call it what you want. We really want to dignify the presence of the president of the president of the country with our presence in Parliament. So we walked out.
And Mr. Oppong-Nkrumah, do you accept they want to be part of the debate?
I'm not saying that we want to be part of the debate.
Sorry. Okay, let me hear Mr. Enusa Fuseni on that. Yeah, quickly, Mr. Fuseni.
Yes, I'm not saying that we want to be part of the debate. I'm not saying that there's no such principle that when you walk out from Parliament, you can't debate what the president has said. So I'm not saying that we want to be part of the debate. Get me clear.
Okay, so will you be part of the debate?
I'm saying that there is no principle that establishes that when you walk out from Parliament on the president or any other person, you can't debate what he has said.
Okay, but there's a
difference. But whether or not we want to debate what the president said in Parliament is another matter.
Okay, so I'm asking a different question now. So will you now be part of the debate?
That is a matter for the minority to decide.
So you haven't decided that yet?
No.
Mr. Ponkruma?
Evans, good evening. And I think that what needs to happen is that some calm heads must begin to prevail after this very embarrassing conduct that our colleagues in the minority put up today. They embarrassed the Republic, they embarrassed our democracy, they embarrassed their own constituents. You know, currently my senior is struggling to decide whether it's a boycott or a walkout. Earlier, at the press conference, when the question was put to their leader, he then tried to say it wasn't a boycott, but it was a walkout. Now, the Honorable Minister Husseini cannot seem to make up his mind whether it's a boycott or a walkout. Earlier, they are threatening to do it because of District Assembly's Common Fund. Then today, they said it's not because of District Assembly's Common Fund, but they wanted to ignore the president. We had heard that the flag bearer of the NDC is the one who had called to instruct them that because of the voters register, they should create a scene there. They earlier denied it. Later, they confirmed that they have issues with the register. Then later, they said it's about radio stations consistently inconsistent in all they have done today. And now even this argument of whether or not they should be part of the debate, there's a lack of coherence between refusing to participate or walking out on this constitutionally mandated exercise, then coming through the back door to say you want to participate in it. I think that it's an embarrassing thing that has happened today. We need to pull the brakes at this point in time and ensure that these things that have the tendency or the potential to undermine the pillars of our democracy are stopped, and that we all come around the table and do the proper thing. I've heard colleagues in the majority side, including leadership, threaten that they would also employ all legal means to deny them the opportunity to debate the address because they refused to even listen to the address. I think it will be important that perhaps at the business committee meeting early next week, we have an opportunity to sit as leadership and resolve this matter. This is not what the people of Ghana voted for us to go to parliament to do.
But Mr. Ponkruma, the minority cites 2013, that you set the precedent for this when, yes, you boycotted the entire State of the Nation address when John Mahama, a legitimately elected president, was on the floor to do his constitutional mandate as well. You boycotted. So what's the point?
And now you raise the word legitimacy, which makes all the difference. First of all, in 2013, the MPP at the time did not agree with the entire electoral declaration that had been made and went to the Supreme Court and later announced that because they were in court, they will not undermine their court case by participating in a number of activities. So on that day, for example, they did not show up in the chamber at all. There were many other activities that they literally did not participate in because they were questioning the legitimacy of the president. When it was resolved in court, they rescinded their position. Here is a situation in which the legitimacy of President Akufo-Addo is not in question. Nobody has gone to court to question his legitimacy. He is the duly elected president that has not been contested by the NDC. They are now raising side issues that because at first they said District Assembly's Common Fund, then later they say they want to ignore him, then now they say voters register, now the latest one I've heard is radio stations. Those are not issues on which you say that you will not attend to Parliament to conduct your constitutionally mandated obligation. They are not. And I think, as I mentioned, leadership must prevail, come to the table early next week, and let the proper thing be done in the interest of the Republic.
On this matter of precedent, do you accept the explanations and justification that we just heard from Mr. Ponkruma?
That is a struggle for a distinction with a purpose. You did not participate in the State of the Nation of John Dramani Mahama, but the MPP debated the State of the Nation. They debated that State of the Nation, and so Opon Nkrumah is seeking to distinguish what happened without real reason. The net effect is that I challenge anybody to show me an order of Parliament, a principle established by parliamentary practice, that when you refuse to take part, this is the level of impunity we are talking about. This is the impunity that has gotten out of Parliament. Because they think that they can, by their own personal idiosyncrasies, they can rewrite the orders of Parliament. And that because we have walked out on Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we cannot debate I mean, what kind of level of impunity is this?
Did John Mahama instruct and direct the minority to do what they did today? He suggests that may be the reason.
No. I didn't hear any directive from John Dramani Mahama. My colleagues never told me that John Dramani Mahama had directed that we walk out. So now the whole walkout march has started long before. I mean, I've heard people talk about common fund. I mean, MPPs should be wise. It was a ruse.
How do you mean?
We have serious issues with the way
raised by a member of parliament.
This government is being run.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Nusa Hussein, you know, that point about the common fund being a reason was raised by Mr. Ahi, who raised it last.
It was raised by Mr. Ahi, and I'm saying that's a ruse. It's just a ruse.
I explain that. I'm asking you, it was deliberate to sort of, mark your real intention?
It's a ruse. I mean, so the issue of the boycotting the State of the Nation address was not because common fund was not paid. But we see, we are living in Parliament. We know what parliamentarians can do. We know. And so, I mean, they try to second guess your intentions. They try to plant people. They try to bring people closer to you to be able to get what you are thinking. And this time, they never got what we were thinking.
See, so this was a plan all along?
Yes.
I see. So when was this plan hatched? Last week?
Well, I say that we executed the plan. We had come to the conclusion that we were extremely dissatisfied with the way the president was governing.
Final question on this.
The level of impunity in this MPP government constituted an existential threat to our democracy.
Final question on this, and then we can go to the substance quickly, because you are members of parliament representing your people. The people of your constituencies, did you do them justice by this particular decision?
You remember Ahmed Swale?
Yes, I
do. You remember him? Was he a voter? Is he represented in parliament? Do you remember the owners of radio stations? Are they voters? Are they represented in parliament? Who are the constituents you are talking about?
Your constituents.
Who are the constituents?
Your constituents, Mr. Husseini. You have a particular constituency.
You remember the tricycles that were taken from Tabali?
So your
constituents.
So your constituents
endorse. You want to know where the tricycles are?
Your constituents endorse the fact that you.
I'm saying that I don't know which constituents you are thinking about. I don't represent people in other places. I represent people in Tabali Central, and they endorsed what I did.
I see. Mr. Ponkruma, so the people are behind it. So that is really at the heart of it.
Evans, and nobody listening to you would believe any of the words that my very good friend and senior, the Honorable Nusa Hussein, is uttering. He's a man of honor, a very well-respected man. Nobody has spoken about an order of parliament that stops them from debating it. You're asking him about the interest of the people who voted for them to go and perform the Article 67 obligation in parliament today. And he's telling you about Ahmed Swale's very unfortunate death. How does that stop you from going to parliament to do your job today? He's telling us that Mr. Ahi, Samson Ahi, a respected member of parliament from their side, who organized a press conference to tell us their intention was planted by the majority, or that what he said was a ruse, as in they put him to a ruse or we put him to a ruse. Listen, let's not insult the intelligence of the millions of listeners this evening. What has happened today is embarrassing. Let us just put that behind. I repeat the first call I made. Early next week, let leadership get around the table and fix this. This is our democracy we are talking about. And the pillars that hold together our democracy, the things that make people look at us and laugh that these guys are not serious in parliament. Those are the things we should do. So let's put this behind us. Early next week, let's fix this and move forward.
There is no obligation. There is no obligation. None of the rules of parliament talks of an obligation on the part of any member of parliament to sit in parliament to listen to the president. There's no obligation like that.
Okay. It is expected, Honorable Nusa Husseini, that when you take an oath on the Holy Quran, that you will be in parliament to do your job. When an Article 67 job like this is brought to the floor, all of us, regardless of how we feel about the presidents and about some particular matter, will be there to do our job. That is what Ghanaians expect.
Which I have not said there's an order in understanding what I said by force sit down or not.
I haven't said that. What has happened today is embarrassing. Let's fix it early next week and move forward.
Gentlemen, let's quickly deal with one particular substance. Let's go to the substance quickly. And Mr. Nusa Hussein, I'm delighted to have you because this particular one has to do an area you supervised one time. And Mr. Ponkruma as well, you've been talking about this. I'm talking about the Galamsey problem. Going into the State of the Nation was one of the most controversial things. This was what the president said about it.
When we came into office in January 2017, Galamsey activities were rampant in many parts of our country. Our lands, forests and river bodies were being systematically degraded and polluted without any care. And this had been the case for several years. And indeed, the previous NDC government had given up the fight against Galamsey. We determined that this was an intolerable situation, and we owed it to generations yet unborn to tackle the problem and save our environment. The threat posed to the future of our country by Galamsey is grave, and we cannot shirk our responsibilities in dealing with it. I'm appealing to the media coalition not to be daunted by the difficulties in the fight against Galamsey. Government will not weaken its stance and welcomes the continuous support of the media coalition. The Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining has been working hard and has had some successes. Under the auspices of this committee, the Ministry of Local Government has formulated and is implementing the Alternative Livelihood Program in 35 severely affected Galamsey districts across the country. Operation Vanguard has been largely successful, even though problems still remain. Mining with impunity on water bodies and in forest reserves has declined. More than 4,000 miners have received training in sustainable mining. The number of individuals dying in collapsed mining tunnels and pits in the few unauthorized locations left has reduced by more than 90%. Operation Vanguard has been particularly effective in helping to restore the order which has permitted the reopening of the famous Obwasi mine of AngloGold Ashanti. The Interministerial Committee, along with Operation Vanguard, were determined to disrupt Galamsey activities by confiscating equipment that were employed in these activities. In this regard, 12,000 Shangfine machines that go on the river and scoop up the riverbed were seized and destroyed on site. Some excavators were also seized, and a number of them have gone missing. The police have arrested and charged some of the alleged culprits, and investigations are ongoing. No one involved will be shielded, no matter what their positions or political colors are.
Mr. Fuseni, your reaction to that?
Well, for the first time, the president has admitted in the State of the Nation address that all is not too well with the fight to stop illegal small-scale mining, and that some of the equipment that was confiscated by the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining had gone missing. That's the first presidential admission that we have seen. I mean, it means that what people have been saying and what Professor Frimpong Boateng said and what Ewusi has said have all come to pass. It's true. Now, but the problem is that the president wants to justify what is happening now on the basis of what happened in the past. But it's totally wrong. It's wrong because there was a fight to stop illegal small-scale mining.
Which you supervised?
Which I supervised. The fight was continuing after I left the ministry. Then NDC lost power. He came in. It is not exactly true that the MPP decided to carry on with the fight. Indeed, when you look at the 2016 manifesto of the MPP, there is nothing on Galamsey. The president, who was then flag bearer, is on record of promising the people illegal small-scale mining, that they should discount what the opposition was saying, the government was saying, that is the NDC government, that he was coming to stop Galamsey. He was not coming to stop Galamsey. So he had endorsed Galamsey when he was campaigning to be president. It is the media coalition against illegal small-scale mining that started the fight. and the president accepted to lead the fight. And he put his presence on the line after accepting to lead the fight. So clearly, he did not even understand what he was being confronted with, because it was not part of the manifesto of the MPP to fight illegal small-scale mining. And so I am not surprised, and I've said it time and again on your network, on other networks, that there was already telltale signs of failure in the fight against illegal small-scale mining. And it has come to pass.
Let me bring in Mr. Opon. Mr. Opon, so what now with the fight?
First of all, the president never endorsed galamsey, which is also known as illegal small-scale mining. It's a matter of fact that needs to be corrected. He never did that. He has never said that he supports illegal small-scale mining. He has consistently said that mining is an activity that has been with us for centuries. Those who want to do small-scale mining should be supported to do it in a legal manner. That is why, after initially stopping the entire exercise, the committee ensured that those with licenses could go back and they could even be tracked to do it in a legal way. And that those who used to do it illegally for the first time were trained for community mining. About 4,000 people trained for community mining, and currently some community mining concessions have been opened up for them to operate. This is the first time we have seen such advancement in the fight against illegal and irresponsible small-scale mining. The president has also not provided any justification for anybody's untoward act. All the facts as he laid out, including number of persons trained, youth who were stopped, deaths that were stopped, all of those facts, my senior Honorable Minister Fuseni has not controverted them. What the president has done is to admit that while we are going forward with this exercise, there are still challenges. And those challenges he is willing to confront. First, the renewed reports of people resorting to illegal and irresponsible mining after the licensed people were allowed to go back. And he has said that the security agencies would have to clamp down on those. Is that not what we are looking for? That is what we are looking for. Second, the fact that some persons who were even associated with the exercise are reported to be involved in the suspected theft of some of the assets. And he says he's happy to know that they've been reported to the police, arrests have been made, and he wants to see that investigation through. The difference here is that unlike times past where you had the previous administration and you have their ministers on record throwing their hands in the air and saying that, well, they're literally giving up the fight because it is almost impossible to. We have an administration that is committed. And when the president says that he puts his presidency on the line, it comes on the back of his initial efforts and the threats that were given to this administration by people who said that if you fight galamsey, which is known as illegal small-scale mining, then we will not vote for you. And he says, well, then to hell with it. He doesn't care whose ox is gored. He will ensure that he takes that battle on. That's what he means when he says he will put his presidency on the line. So on that specific matter, I think the facts laid down by the president have not been controverted by anybody. What we need to do is to ensure that the security agencies succeed in clamping down on those who still want to resort to illegal or irresponsible small-scale mining. And what we need to do is to ensure that they succeed in ensuring that anybody involved in the suspected theft of some of the seized assets is dealt with in accordance with the law.
I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time. That is Yunusa Fuseni joining us earlier, and Kojo Ponkrumah, who you just been listening to, Information Minister. Yunusa Fuseni was a former Lands and Natural Resources Minister and a Member of Parliament as well. There's more on the State of the Nation address on Newsnight, MFA.
President Akufo-Addo is serving the strongest indication that no individual will be spared as Attorney General begins